Welcome back into another episode of Red Zone Talk. I am Owen Burke, joined alongside by my esteemed co-host Timothy Hunt for episode 13, part 1 of episode 13. And if you want to get real technical, the second try of part 1 of episode 13.
Yeah.
So, to kind of explain everything, obviously, I know a lot of you guys were confused last week with the show kind of cutting in and out and whatnot. We had a lot of technical difficulties last week, firstly.
Yeah.
And we're running into a couple tonight, but we're going to be cutting the show into 2 parts just to kind of make it a little bit more digestible for everybody. There's not really a set time on like 45 here, 45 there, but it'll be still around or under an hour and a half total. Just to, again, make it a little bit more digestible. If you don't like trivia, you can skip the first part of the episode or things of that nature. Skip the first episode in entirety, but that's kind of what we're doing. So, part 1 of episode 13, we got trivia. We got a new segment that Tim came up with today. We'll get into that stuff later. But before we get to trivia, you want to run us through all of our important social medias there?
Yeah.
I think you've got it a little bit more down packed than I do at this point.
We are at Red Zone Talk on Instagram, at Red Zone Talk Pod on YouTube.
I knew it.
And then we are still user something whatever. I tried to change it again. I think it's because the username that I'm trying to change it to, it shows that it's available and it's actually not available. So I think that's part of the problem. And then it locks me out for 30 days. But if you search Red Zone Talk Pod on TikTok, that's the name of the account, like the name under it. So hopefully it should pull back up. I have an updated link tree inside of the Instagram. So link tree to the TikTok, link tree to the the YouTube, the Instagram, and the Spotify. So everything is available on the Instagram. So if you're having a hard time finding us anywhere, just find us on Instagram and you'll be able to find us everywhere else. So
exactly.
Only thing I don't have is Owen's Twitter because I don't use Twitter anymore.
That's fine. We have plenty of links already in there. That's the only thing about Linktree that I hate is sometimes you get 10 in there and it's like, all right, wow, this is way too much going on right now.
We have 3 in there, 4.
Yeah, I remember the olden days of there being like 10 or 15 in there for me. But
hey, go follow our MySpace page.
Yeah, get at all of our MySpace stuff. All right, we got 3 accounts on MySpace right now, so we're buying a lot into the stock on MySpace.
Yeah.
So, with all the fun stuff out of the way, it's time to get into some trivia for these folks. All right, let me peek at the record here. I'm up 220 to 130, so you got a chance to take the lead still.
You had a clean sweep well, not a clean sweep, but you got everything.
It was a clean sweep with an asterisk. I did have definitely a little bit of help down the stretch, but we'll see if I can return the favor today. I'm going to start the first favor. I've got 2 lists here in front of me, and I'm going to let you pick.
Okay.
So we're looking at
time too. Damn.
Yeah, we're looking at single season passing yard leaders for 2 separate franchises. One would be your division. I would love to do. I didn't even look at the Patriots because it's gonna be Tom Brady 1 through 97.
Yeah, it's gonna be really tough.
So I got your division rival, the Jets here, and then I also have your partial Philly fanatics. I have the Philadelphia Eagles here as well. Not too little, and the other info that I can give you again, doing single seasons, we're looking at 10 names, right? So we're going to have some guys that do fall outside of the top 10. The Jets list has your top 10 guys, and with repeats, number 11 and number 20 all-timer on their list for names. And then for the Eagles, a lot more repeats inside the top 20. So you have 14, 18, and 23 that are going to peek into the Eagles list. And I will say, probably from just sheer looking at this, I think the Jets one might be easier, to be honest.
Really? Wow, I was definitely leaning Eagles because I was like, God damn.
Because I think the Eagles have so many repeat guys that those 3 or 4 guys that peek in here, you're like,
I don't know who they are.
I don't even know who
Boy. Man, I'll go with Jets, I guess. I'll take your advice.
You got to trust. Your division rivals. Come on now. So we're looking at top 10 passing yard leaders in a single season all time.
Okay. For the Jets.
For the New York Football Jets. Yes, indeed. 3 strikes, 2 hints, right?
Yeah, it's your call. Yeah.
We're going with that. I might give you 3 hints today. We'll see.
Okay. What is the minimum yards needed to be on this list? Just out of
That
curiosity to frame me a little bit
to
here.
make the true top 10 for them is 3,379.
Okay.
Again, with all
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
repeats, we go all the way down to 3,050 yards for our guy at number
Ooh.
20.
So still a really
So
tight list there.
yeah, it
Okay.
is a tight list.
I'm gonna knock some of the easier ones. Oh man, everyone that's coming to my mind, I'm like, God, that's so risky to just say.
All you
I
got to
know.
do is they have to have one good season. That's all you got to think
Yeah,
about.
Ryan
But
Fitzpatrick's got to be here.
number 2 on
Yeah,
the list.
that's not shocking.
I think it's shocking that he was number 2, but 39.05 for his total yardage that year or passing
Okay.
yards. But
I know he had one. He had a really great. That was a great year because Brandon Marshall had a great year that year too.
true, very true.
Um, boy, it's just these names are so horrendous. Like,
Yeah, 'cause there are some names.
I'm like, man, Vinny Testaverde's got to be on here, right?
He is number 4 on the list.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's somebody like screaming in the comments, like, how have you not said this name? Man, Mark
That's
Sanchez was
always going to happen.
only there for 4 years. And he doesn't seem like a guy who would throw for more than 3,000 yards, but like you said, it's 3,000. So Mark Sanchez has to be on there. He has to have one season over 3,000 yards.
He is number 7 on the list, actually. Made the true top 10.
Okay. I kind of figured he would.
Got 3 so far.
So I've got Pennington, Fitzpatrick, and
You have not guessed Pennington yet.
oh, I have not guessed Chad Pennington. Chad Pennington has to be on there winning comeback player of the year.
Surprisingly low, and if we just did top 10 seasons, he'd actually be out. He's number 11 on
11?
their list, but
Okay.
no, the ninth name for
And
us.
you said 12 the 12th season sneaks in there on this one, or 14th, right?
No, it's 20 is the guy down there.
Oh, 20 is the last
yeah.
guy on this list.
Here, I'll just give you a free hint. Doesn't count as one of your 3. That number 20
Okay.
guy is currently active in the NFL.
Oh,
As a player, he's a currently active player in the NFL.
Okay.
So
Not
that
necessarily
might
with
make it
the
worse,
Jets.
but
Yeah, that doesn't help any because like
Like-
everybody's played quarterback for the Jets.
true,
Okay.
very true.
So I've got 4 guys nailed out, right?
Yes, 4 so far.
And you don't sit here and go, God, did Brett Favre throw for more than 3,000 yards in his one season there? God, he was so bad that season. I'm going to say Brett Favre because I got strikes to eat.
Brett Favre is here.
Okay.
Number 8 on the list, 3,472 yards, 22 picks, and 22 interceptions. That's Brett Favre right there, baby.
22 touchdowns, 22 picks, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Did I say picks and interceptions?
Yeah, you said picks and interceptions. I was like, damn, 44 interceptions.
picks?
That's a rough season. I
It's a
heard
league
30
record
for
right
30
there.
for Jameson, but Jesus.
That's funny.
Okay, so I got 5 guys already.
You're 5-0. Got 3 hints still to burn.
Dear God, and I'm running out of names quickly here because it gets real ugly.
Yeah, there are some surprising names on this list. The number 1 guy shocked me, truthfully.
Mm-hmm.
There's another guy that I didn't know played for the Jets. You have our active guy, and then 2 guys that I really don't know. And I'm going to go ahead and just pull their pages up because those are the guys I'm going to be giving hits on.
Man, I don't think Zach Wilson's done anything since he's been in New York. I can't imagine he's on that list. The question is Sam Darnold up there? I'm going to go Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's had to have a season where he threw for more than 3,000 yards for the Jets. There's no way he's not on there, right?
So Sam Darnold unfortunately isn't. He is number 21 on the list. He did throw for over 3,000 yards, but just 20 yards short of our last name.
List. I'm okay eating. Like that's one that I can live with.
That's a very solid guess for our list.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a livable number. I'm gonna use a hint here because I am running out of steam very quickly.
So again, number 1, I'm trying to think of how to describe him again. Very surprising Jets quarterback to see at number 1 on the passing yards list. All-time guy. The current guy is a current starter in the NFL, not for the Jets, but he's currently a starter in the NFL. And again, probably not a name that you're going to think of as like, oh yeah, this is a passing leader in Jets history for a season.
Starter in the NFL?
Yeah, you have a current broadcaster, former NFL player that I did not know played for the Jets, but I would assume that you probably would have known he played for them. I think you think of him for a different team for sure.
Okay.
But
Podcaster.
Broadcaster. He is doing
podcast or
broadcast. He is. Is he?
he's
Yeah, he's calling games. Pretty sure.
okay.
I feel pretty confident.
Calling games and he's a quarterback.
Yeah, he's on TV. He's definitely on TV. I can say that much.
Okay, it's not Romo. It's not.
Oh, he was actually drafted. No. That's a lie. The team you think of drafted him. He made a 2-year stop in New York before going to Arizona, and then back to the team that drafted him to retire. That is your broadcaster's career timeline.
It's not Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner played for the Giants, not the Jets. I'm just running through quarterbacks that are on TV. It's not Aikman. God, who's a quarterback that's on TV still that I'm not thinking of?
He's still broadcasting.
And there's a starter in the NFL. Played for the Jets. God, that one's really bugging me.
It's not Aaron Rodgers. No. 4 plays.
Yeah. A starter in the NFL.
I mean, that one kind of run through. I mean, you can run through the team.
Like he was a week 1 starter, you're saying?
I'm pretty sure he started week 1. Yeah, like he was drafted there, if I remember right.
No. I meant like a week 1 starter this season. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. He was a week 1 starter this season. For sure, yes, he was.
Okay.
And he was drafted by the Jets originally. It is his 4th NFL team that he's currently starting for.
Okay, it's not Josh Dobbs because Josh Dobbs played for like 5 teams in like 100 days or something.
I'm trying to think of where he got drafted. Where did Dobbs get drafted?
I think
it was Pittsburgh. I'm pretty sure it was Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, yeah.
Because I remember loving his Tennessee highlights. And I'm like, oh, God damn it. I don't want this kid here.
I'm just trying to think of, like, there's not that many journeymen anymore, which is so weird to say. Like, you don't think of, like, you know what I mean?
When does the journeyman title kick in? That's a great question. Is it 4 or 5 teams?
I think once you started for, like, 3 teams, I think you're, like, a journeyman. And there's not many guys who meet that title, really. Even guys that are on, like, their 2nd team. I don't even think you're a journeyman yet. But, was drafted by the Jets. Your hints were terrible, by the way. Just to like clarify that, that was like you gave me. Okay, how many of these guys out of the 5 left? How many are post 2000?
Post 2001, and it's our current guy. Our current guy is post 2000. You're gonna have our broadcaster mainly played.
Our broadcaster is not gonna be
played from 84 to 97 was his full career. So just ended before.
It's got to be. Okay? Can I guess that guy?
Yeah.
Is it Boomer?
It is Boomer Esiason.
Okay. I was thinking about. I was like, that's got to be Boomer. I forgot he played for the Jets for just a teeny little stint.
Yeah, he played for 3 years there. I didn't know he ever played for the Jets. Honestly, I just always think Cincinnati.
Forgot about Boomer. Because as soon as you said, like, once you gave me that timeline, I was like, oh, it's Boomer. I forgot about Boomer. I just don't watch like the pregame shows that much anymore. So
yeah, and we are still missing our number 1, our big fish on the list, a very notable quarterback in Jets history. But again, surprising that you'd see him at the top.
Joe Namath.
It is Joe Namath, number 1 on this list still.
I was scared to guess it just because it's like. That's such an obscure, you know what I mean? Like, he's so old that you wouldn't have thought he'd be number 1.
1967, Joe Namath threw 26 touchdowns and 28 interceptions and is currently the only quarterback in Jets history to throw for over 4,000 yards.
That's insane. Oh my God.
Fitzmagic threw for like 390 and some change, or 3,900 some change. Yeah. Nobody else has hit 4,000 except for Namath. So,
week 1 starter.
I would just start naming teams and they're starting QBs from week 1 because I do think you've got to come around to it eventually.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to run through AFC. So it's not Mac. It's not Josh.
Start in the NFC.
Not Tua. Okay, start in the NFC.
Start in the NFC. I'll just cut the teams in half for you. He's in the NFC.
Not Derek Carr. It's not Desmond Ritter. It's not Baker Mayfield. It's not
Bryce Young.
Yep. That knocks that division out pretty quick.
You're welcome.
It's Geno Smith. That's who it is.
It is. Geno Smith. Number 20 on the all-time list, the 10th guy on ours. The last 2 guys are the 2 guys that I did not recognize, and you know it's a bad sign when you look at their Wikipedia page and they do not have a photo. So, trying to give hints here is going to be tough. Um,
Okay. So these guys are pre-2000, which is
yeah,
makes it
much
even
earlier.
harder. Okay.
One guy played from 76 to 86, and the other played from 83 to 93. So,
I just probably have zero shot at either one of these
where's
guys.
this guy go to college at? Apparently, there was the famed quarter. Yeah. So what? 1983 was what quarterback class? That was Stafford Noe in 83, or is that Marino? What?
Um, I don't know
I don't
draft
remember.
class.
He
I don't
was
know the
part of.
'80s that well.
He was part of that draft class in '83. Firstly, apparently he's in the College Football Hall of Fame, and he held the team record for most consecutive pass completions in a game, 17.
Mm. Where
Yeah,
did he go to
this guy
school?
was. He played at Sacramento State, UC Davis. He's a first round pick in '83. Also played for the Packers and the Eagles, and I guess he was also a coach. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler, actually. What the hell? What the hell? I've never heard of this guy. He's in the College
Just,
Football Hall of
I
Fame.
mean, just because you're a Pro Bowl, I mean, like
That's
your
right.
son's not going to be like, "Oh, Dad, what was Andy Dalton like?"
What
Like,
was Tyler Huntley like
yeah,
that?
exactly. Like, yeah, it's not gonna like just because you're a 2-time Pro Bowl, it doesn't mean you're gonna like talk to your kid about him.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna probably throw in the white flag because I have like zero
I don't
idea.
even know if it's kind of an unfair question to be truthfully honest with you because there's two names here that I don't think anybody
Would have
except for
got.
like
I mean, there's probably people out there to get it, but not people our
diehard Jets
age.
fans.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a pass on the last two. Let's just give you the free 10 points for being
Okay.
a great sport, and we'll just tie it up because I do think it is kind of unfair to bring a list that two names you just have zero shot for.
The 10 points would put me over you, but we'll just take the 90 and call it even. Who are the last two guys here?
Last two guys, Ken O'Brien was the guy we were talking about there.
Oh,
Is
okay.
that a
I do.
name?
That name does ring a bell. Ken
I love it.
O'Brien. Who else did you say he played? Did he play for the Browns?
No, he did not.
Okay. I don't know why I thought he did.
Ken O'Brien, Jets practice squad for the Packers and then the Eagles for a year.
Okay. I don't know why that name did ring a bell. Who's the other guy?
Richard Todd would be our other guy.
Yeah, that guy nothing.
Yeah, it's drafted in '76, played at Alabama under Bear Bryant. Just
Hmm.
literally the lead for his thing is like Todd, like former Jets quarterback Joe Namath and Raiders quarterback Ken Stabler, played at Alabama for Bear Bryant.
Hmm.
You know,
I probably heard Ken Bryant from like a Nerd Sesh TikTok or something.
fair. Yeah, that's
And
fair.
that's probably the only way I've ever like that name would ever ring a bell. Is
That's
he's
fair.
probably been on like 2 TikToks for Nerd Sesh.
Two nerds ish. They're
Yeah.
just pulling them. Those guys are insane.
I
Dude.
every time I watch one of their TikToks, I'm like, gosh, like
I'm going to give you a quick run through, and I want you to just give me a yes or no. Do you think the Eagles one would have been easier? All right. So
okay.
you have Carson Wentz,
Yep.
McNabb,
Yep.
Cunningham,
Yep.
Sam Bradford.
Oh, that's a good
Yeah.
one. I thought there would be some of those in betweeners for them because they had like a lot of like guys like that had one seasons that were really good, like Bradford.
Sonny Jurgensen,
Yep.
Jalen Hurts,
Yep.
Ron Jaworski,
Oh,
I think.
yeah.
Norm
Jaws.
Snead.
You know Jaws on ESPN.
Jaws?
That's Jaws.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no. Never connected the dots on that one until just now.
Yeah.
Norm Snead.
Never would have gotten that.
Mike Vick is all the way down at 18.
I figured he would be on there.
And then Roman Gabriel.
Okay. It probably would have been about the same.
Two names. Still two names?
The Jets would have been I think the 8 Jets were easier than the 8
Yeah,
Eagles.
because I'm like Jurgensen and Jaworski. I'm like, ugh, are you pulling and Bradford? Because trying to nail down Sam Bradford on that list might have been difficult.
But Bradford, you got to remember that got him the Minnesota deal.
The 3-year Minnesota deal, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like that was the season that everyone was like, "Oh, see, just like if he can fight injuries, he's back. He's the
just
guy."
got to get him out of Jeff Fisher's system.
I'm trying to think. Like Bradford's one of those guys that's super interesting, and I worry Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's better than Sam Bradford. I'm gonna start. Let me just lead off with that. Baker may have not had as good of a season as Bradford has had, but like Baker's much more consistent, I think.
Yeah,
plays. He plays and he's more consistent when he does play. But it's that number 1 overall lore that like you just get 5 shots. It's like it's same thing Carson Wentz. Like Carson Wentz got like everyone was like, "Oh, it's getting ugly with the Eagles," and the Eagles are like, "Dude, we're gonna give this guy away to the Colts," and the Colts were like, "Okay, we'll take him," and then the Commanders are like, "You know what? We want a piece of that action." He looked terrible, like with the only offensive coordinator who ever believed in him. He
True.
wasn't that bad in Indy though. Like I will say,
No,
they shouldn't have given up on that project in my mind, but
I
it was
agree. Like again,
The product with Wentz was way better than the product was when it was fucking Matt Ryan. So
yeah.
no offense to
And
Matt Ryan. He's an all time great.
do you think that product is better than when they had Philip Rivers the year before?
No,
Okay. Well,
no.
Phil got him to the playoffs at least.
Yeah, like
So
Phil was like good enough. Like I don't know, and that team would have made the playoffs. What happened? There was something that weird that happened. That team almost made the playoffs. It came
no,
down to the last
they
game and
were
they
very close.
lost.
Oh yeah, remember they got shut out in Jacksonville.
They got shut out in
And we,
Jacksonville and they missed. Yeah,
oh yeah, and Jacksonville wasn't that great that year either.
that was
That
the
was
Urban
before
Meyer
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. Yeah,
Oh my god,
yeah, that was that year. But
what a
yeah,
crazy stain!
I
And
was like
it's
that team was like similar enough, but like Phil Rivers was just like on his last leg, but like he was
yeah,
still like Phil Rivers doesn't make mistakes. And that was always the thing with Wentz was like Wentz would be like, "Oh, it's fourth quarter. How can I shoot myself in the foot?"
hmm,
And you know what? We get to watch it with the Rams this week,
yeah. He's
baby.
like, "What jersey am I wearing?" Oh, that guy's wearing a different one. Fucking right there, right to him.
I guess the Rams have a bye week this week, so we'll see it next week.
They'll find a way to lose. Okay.
I hope they start him. I really do.
I think they're good, especially with the bye week, because Walford's on Tampa, so you have the familiarity. He's not in the system. I don't even know who their third guy
Uh,
is.
the old guy from Georgia, Stetson Bennett.
Oh, is he still with the team? I thought he stepped away for a while.
Oh, did he? I don't
I
know.
thought he did because I remember, yeah, because remember that was the word. Like, well, Stafford goes down, Stetson's in, but like, I think if I remember right, don't fully quote me on this, please, but like, I think he stepped away from the team because he's having like some personal issues, and I think
Oh,
he was dealing with being an alcoholic. I believe I could be wrong.
oh.
Remember, he had the DUI case right at the end before he got drafted, and like that, I remember hearing that, but also it was not super well reported on. So hopefully you're fact checking me because that is a crazy thing to just throw out there and not look up.
Stinson. I mean, he's on the roster. Stinson
Oh,
Ben's. He's listed as the third QB.
oh,
I
fair
mean,
enough.
I'm gonna check to make sure. And it is less likely that Benson illness will return to the team this season. Oh, okay. Yeah. So it looks like he did step away, but they have it listed as an illness, and I don't know if there's anything more to that. Of like,
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I don't know. I do remember like he had the DUI case right as he left Florida and or not Florida, Georgia, and
Georgia.
I was like, I mean, kind of adds up, but yeah.
I don't know what this list is. This goes on reserve non-football illness list. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe it's something. I mean, there's no official reports on anything, so I'm
We'll
not
see.
gonna.
I apologize if I did just lie on Stetson Bennett's name. It's
Brett
not the
Rippin is
goal.
the other guy that they've had
Brad
on.
Rippon.
Yeah, Brett Rippin. So,
I don't know. I think you start Carson. Let him rip.
I
No
mean, you
pun
might as
intended.
well. I mean,
What do you have to lose?
I mean, they're what 3-6, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like you're out of the playoffs. Matt Stafford's going to retire soon.
I think this might be Stafford's last year. It has to. I mean, the poor guy is fucking just beat up every single
Yeah.
year. So
And you drop Wentz into McVay's system behind, with Stafford being around him, hopefully through the
I
back
mean,
half of this year and helping
Baker
him out.
Mayfield won a game with like 48 hours. I know we talked about that last week, but
Yeah, I dropped in on Tuesday and won a game on Thursday. Okay.
yeah,
Everyone's
it's not.
freaking out about Josh Dobbs. Baker did it first, okay, and he did it on shorter notice.
Yeah, that's true. Like,
Can't take it away from him. It happened.
you can't. But I mean, Josh Dobbs is still an incredible story.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about him a little bit more later on. But
Okay. All right. Ready to jump into what would you do?
I am extremely excited for what would you do.
So we can spend some time. Sorry if you hear the cats whining outside my door. I don't know if it's coming in. It's very faint, but
I don't hear it, but doesn't
okay.
mean they can't hear it. So
So this is we can talk about these and kind of like see what the thought process is on some of this here. I'm gonna give you two options. You tell me what would you do, and you kind of talk me through what you're thinking here.
okay.
Okay. It's kind of like a would you rather, but what would you do? Would you bench Baker or would you keep Baker long term
Oh,
in Tampa Bay?
that's a tough one. Um, Man, I think I probably keep Baker long term at this point. Couple things like I think he's earned at least the rest of the season, right? Versus
At
benching
least.
him. He's kind of lit a fire into that team, and they're playing some decent football. You know, winning a couple games here and there. They still have a shot at the division, and twofold. Like I truly still and like I truly kind of still think that Kyle Trask might be something at the NFL level. We've seen absolutely nothing
Wow.
of Kyle Trask. That's just seeing him at Florida and thinking that offense is talented enough, right? So I feel like I have a decent backup plan that I would let it ride with Baker for another year.
It's interesting to me because like I don't know what kind of money Baker's going to command, and I think that
That's a good
makes it
point.
interesting.
That's a
I
very
don't
good
think he's
point.
he's not a 40 million a year guy, right? Like he
No.
isn't playing that well. Uh, they genuinely should have won that game over the weekend.
Yeah.
Like CJ Stroud was just like a a miracle worker
A
that game.
man possessed.
Yeah, he was not losing. So
Yeah.
I can't put that loss on Baker Mayfield's shoulders.
Mhm.
Um, he has played well above like anyone's expectation. A lot of people thought it was going to be terrible, and I think it's been better than I thought it was going to be, even. And I had some hope in it. Now they've
Yeah.
lost the last four in a row, so that is not the kind of streak you want to be in. But yeah, I mean, listen to these stats. He's thrown for 1,800 yards so far, so he's on pace to throw for 3,500 somewhere in that
35-4,
ballpark.
which is
Yeah,
decent. Solid.
decent. He's thrown 12 touchdowns, four interceptions.
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing. Like as long as the turnover numbers are down,
Yeah,
like I can't really complain a lot. Their offensive line isn't great from what I remember. Like it's solid, but they're without Ryan Jensen, right? They've lost a couple guys to free agency to Cincinnati, right? Alex Kappa left and things of that nature. But like I think Baker's definitely played well enough for a second shot there. And
well,
I that's probably one that like I purely base it off the locker room, right? Like if he's well liked by his teammates, hell yeah, right? Like because I think that's a fact that gets overlooked a lot of times in the NFL. Like when you're like wishy washy on a guy, I'm like, well, hey, you're the 10 guys that have to play on him on offense, right? You're the 11 guys that have to watch what he does before you
yeah.
go back out there. How do you guys feel about him, right? Because if you hate him, I don't want to keep him.
They're also in this year of like, hey, we went all in to win a Super Bowl and try to run it back the following year, and now we're kind of paying for everything.
Yeah,
Um, Now I want to pose this question to you in another way here. Um, the I mean, Todd Bowles is probably losing his job at the end of the year unless
I
they
think you
make the
should.
playoffs, right? Like he's probably going to lose his job. I think he should, and they might make the playoffs. They still might fire him because it just hasn't been pretty in any aspect.
What and it's his side of the ball that hasn't been pretty too. That's
Yeah,
the other
that's
thing.
that's the other that's the
You
crazy
cannot
part,
you cannot be a defensive head coach and have bad defense. There's
especially with
zero
all the money's on defense too. That's the craziest
Shaq
part.
Barrett, Devin White, Vita Vea, yeah, tons.
Um, if you're the Bucks, right? Like, and you're gonna move off of Todd Bowles, do you think a coach is gonna want to keep Baker? That's the real question. Can you bring in a coach that's gonna say, "Hey, I'm fine with Baker Mayfield being our starting quarterback"?
Yeah, I think you could find a guy, truthfully, because I feel like now there may not be a lot of guys out there that love Baker, right? That are like, I would love to coach for Baker Mayfield. I don't think there's that crowd. I think that crowd does exist, and I think it's probably just the two of us. Maybe it's me, maybe,
Yeah,
but like I think there is a crowd that's like, I do not want to work with Baker Mayfield, right? So there may be a guy or two that you get knocked off the list that are like, I don't want any part of him. That's fine. Those two guys can kick rocks, unless it's a Sean Payton, Doug Peterson level guy. Then at that point, maybe we open the conversation back up. And I wouldn't go to Baker and be like, what head coaches do you want, right? He has not earned that at all.
no.
But like, I don't think it'd be a terrible thing to be like, hey, is there any guy that like you feel like that you've worked well with that we could at least take a look at, right? And if nobody's hopping off the page and the guy that Baker wants looks pretty good versus the crowd, make it a shorter term thing, right? Like because I think we saw it again with Peterson and Wentz. Like they look great. No, they look pretty good for a first year guy stepping into Frank Reich's. Well, not a first year in his system, but you get what I'm
Yeah,
saying. New roster, but yeah, and it also depends on how the draft plays, right? Shador Sanders is sitting at pick 17, 19, or wherever they land. You
They,
know,
I mean, as it sits right now, Tampa Bay would have the 8th pick in the draft, so they'd be
yeah,
top 10. But they would probably, you're probably in that right range. There's a lot of talk that Shore is not going to actually come out this year. Um, he's not going to come out till 2025 potentially. So that is a possibility. But yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay is probably looking at the third or fourth quarterback is like the best guess, unless
yeah,
somebody like doesn't think the value's there. Um, I don't think Arizona ultimately ends up taking a quarterback. I don't think Arizona ends up at one either.
yeah.
I think their season can kind of turn around, but let's pretend Chicago takes a quarterback. New York probably takes a quarterback. New England, depending on who's sitting there, they're in the market for a quarterback.
They're
Rams,
gonna fly
depending
this
on
year.
yeah, like Rams, depending on the Stafford situation, like they might say, "Hey, it's time to start the rebuild." Green Bay also in front of them, and Green Bay might be in a spot where Jordan Love isn't the guy.
It's
So
possible. Yeah,
there's a couple, and I think Tampa Bay is going to win more games. So I don't think Tampa Bay ends up inside the top 10. Is ultimately
fair.
their
Yeah, I'm
biggest issue.
thinking 15, 13 to 18, somewhere
Yeah,
in there, probably.
yeah. I mean, and to be honest with you, they're like they win that game. Let's pretend they go to 4-4. They have the 15th pick. Like it's
That quick of a jump. Yeah.
that quick of like it's that really. I mean, we talked about it a couple episodes ago. There is no like runaway teams this year, so the
No.
middle of the pack is very very tight. So it's not like
Yeah.
anything is screaming one way or another. So
Yeah. And last thing on CJ before we move past this, probably my favorite stat, and I love the way the video is edited, so I think it brought a little bit extra to me. But like last three guys to pass for was it over 500 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks?
mhm.
Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, CJ Stroud. Those are the three guys that have done it the most recently. So
Yeah,
it's pretty elite company.
I've got a buddy who him and I talk constantly about CJ Stroud,
Mhm.
and how impressed we were. Because yeah, he is just balled out, and he really doesn't have a true wide receiver like one there. Like he is making it like every excuse that we give Bryce Young, like CJ Stroud has a very similar level of that excuse, and yet this dude is just bald. Um,
I think the only thing that I can benefit for him for Stroud over Young would be a better offensive line. I think they've invested
yeah,
quite a bit, especially in the left side of that O line. But the other thing is, again, there's not a lot of crutches that you can usually fall on as well, right? Bryce Young has Frank Reich, and I know it's his first year in Carolina and everything, but like that's a very experienced head coach. We have a first time head coach in Houston. Like he doesn't have Sean McVay or any
yeah.
like real tenured guy to lean on. He's got a first year head coach. He's got no true wide receiver before the year started, and currently he has no run game.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Damian Pierce has been hurt for most of the year. Like
and he's been
it's
disappointing the times that he has played too. That
well,
was
even
supposed to be the one part of the offense that they could lean on, and he's been the guy that's kind of disappeared on.
I mean, I talked myself into Carolina being a heck of a lot better than they ended up being just
Mm-hmm.
because that staff in Carolina is insane. Like Josh
Yeah,
McCown is the quarterback coach for that team. Like he's going to be I think Josh McCown was interviewing for head coaching jobs not that long ago or at least rumored to be in the running for a couple of them. So,
yeah.
I think the Carolina staff is loaded, and I'm not saying the Houston staff isn't bad. Who's their OC? It was a bigger name, wasn't it?
Is Ben Slowick the one that's there in Houston, or
Yeah,
no?
I think it is. I think that sounds right. Ben Slowick, yeah.
Yeah, he's
And
going to get a lot of head coaching
I was
job
like,
opportunities.
this is so Ben Stoic. We talk about the cycle a lot, right? Ben Stoic is going to be in year one of the cycle. He's going to interview for probably 3 or 4 jobs. Unless he blows somebody away, he's probably not going to get a job this year, but he's going to get a job next year, more than likely.
I can't remember the exact stat, and I wish I would have screenshotted it. But and I will say when, because I do think it is a matter of when, not if. When he does get a head coaching job, it's the 2013-2014 Redskins staff. I want to say there's like 5 to 8 head coaches that have came out of that tree at this point because
Uh,
McDaniels was there, McVay was there,
Kyle Shanahan
Slowick
was
was
there.
there,
Slowick
Shanahan was
was there.
there,
Yep.
and there's a couple other guys. Like I think there might be 5 or 6 head coaches that came out of that staff. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, there's been some loaded staffs. It's funny you like look back at some of these trees and stuff like that, and it shows the value of like in the NFL if like you have a good OC like Kyle Shanahan, like why you want to leech. Oh, did we say McVay in that group? McVay
Yeah,
was in Washington.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
wasn't
McVay
sure.
too. Yeah,
But yeah, like those guys typically run in circles
yeah.
together.
Same thing with I think another one that doesn't get talked about as much that should is Belichick's defensive staff when he was in Cleveland, and
Oh,
the amount of talent that he had as like his position coach is what did he call him? I watched that Football Life. I don't even remember Slappy or something like that. I
oh.
love that.
I
I love
mean,
his Football Life. It's
the
hilarious.
greatest college football coach was the defensive coordinator for that team.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And there was I'd see his face right now. I can't think. There's I think at least two other head coaches that were on that staff too.
like
So and
outside. Like Mangini was on that staff. I don't know if you're counting him,
maybe
but he was on the. I
maybe
think he was like, but he was an intern. I don't think he was.
God,
I don't think he was coaching yet.
what's
But
his name? I can't. I can see his fucking face. It's a defensive coordinator. I'll try to think of it. Continue.
okay. Um, but yeah, I think it's. I didn't remember what we were talking about, but yeah, he'll more than likely. It's like Ben Johnson. Last year, Ben Johnson got interviews. Ben Johnson more than likely is getting a job this year. Like Ben
Yeah.
Johnson will probably be. I, I don't want to say the hottest candidate because I don't know who's going to get fired. And sometimes when people get fired, bumps them up the list. But he's definitely Ben Johnson's a top 3 candidate for a lot of teams. I'm sure there's a lot of teams that are gonna want to interview Ben Johnson for sure. Um, all right, let's keep it rolling here. I'm gonna thin this list a little bit.
We
Um,
got a little off topic there.
yeah, we did, but that's okay. I'm gonna even skip that one. That one's boring. Okay, Russell Wilson. What do you do with Russell Wilson? Do you keep Russell Wilson or do you cut Russell Wilson? Because if they cut Russell Wilson at the end of the year, his dead cap money is like 48 million. If they keep him for one more year, it goes down to like 42 million, I want to say. So the difference between cutting him now or cutting him in 2 years is not that big of a difference. What do you think Denver does?
Um, what would I do?
What would you do? That's not what do you think Denver does. Sorry. What would you do?
What would I do? I'd probably move off of him. I understand he's had a good year. Like statistically, like I don't know if it passes the eye test. I haven't watched a lot of Broncos football. I can tell you from the Broncos fans I've talked to that he doesn't pass the eye test. Um, so and you are eating a lot of dead money, but like it's everything that's happened since he's gotten to Denver has completely soiled his image as a person, in my opinion, for the most part. Right? It's not all been bad, right? He's not a terrible person by any stretch, but like he's kind of a weird guy, right? He does
Yeah.
things very differently, and like not you should exclude weird guys or anything, but like I don't know if I want the weird guy being the captain of the ship, you know, like especially with how much talent's going to be in the draft this year, right? Like a potential rebuild on the horizon. I don't want an aging quarterback that's worth a ton of money going into a rebuild. That's a bad idea. I'd rather just kill my cap now, and then when we're coming out of this rebuild or like getting ready to try to boost out of it, I have the money versus taking the dead cap then.
Yeah.
So
So his if they cut him before June 1st, the 2024 dead cap number is $85 million. So it costs them basically
are you
50
saying
million.
85 they cut him now?
If they cut him right now for the 2024 cap number, it'd be dead cap would be 85 million.
Never mind.
Um,
I'm keeping him.
it'd be 50 million. So it basically cost you 50 million in the 2024 cap. Because you're paying them like 30 million. Um, and if you can't do the post June release because it would be 35.4. Actually, you could. That actually might make more sense
Yeah,
if they
I
cut
would
them
not cut him at an $85 million cap hit. I can tell you that much.
because
That's
it just
strangling yourself.
it drops it out. So if you do it pre June 1st, it just is 85 in 1 year. If you do it post June 1st, it'd be 35.4 the first year and then 50 million the second year.
Mm.
So
The financial side of this is what draws it into question. Purely
yeah.
from a play style, what I've gotten out of him on and off the field, I would get rid of Russell Wilson pretty quickly. Just
Yeah,
again, like
because if they run it back, because if they wait till the 2025 season, it's 50 million just in the 2025 season in dead cap. unless they wait till post June, and then it'd be 20 million, and then it just stretches it. Like it makes no
Huh.
sense because in 2026 it'd be 31.2 if they cut him post 6 and 25. So I
I would
mean,
almost just restructure his deal, put all the money into the first year, and then cut him, eat the $170 million dead cap hit, and just get rid of it all at once.
well,
Fuck
that's
it.
what I'm saying. They should, if they cut him at the beginning of next year, you just eat it all in 1 year. They
That's
cut him
fine.
pre
Yeah.
June. Yeah, they eat $85 million, and it costs them $50 million on the cap that year, but it's over. There's no
Let me
2025 penalty.
let me also state before we move on. Yes, I've seen the memes. Yes, I know statistically he's had a better year than Patrick Mahomes, yards, touchdowns, interceptions, whatever. Numbers do not mean anything. Do not be a box score warrior, stat sheet warrior. I hate guys that do that. Like you cannot just look at a guy's numbers and be like, "Well, he's better than him." The stats
Yeah.
don't always tell you everything, right? So
I I also like the biggest thing that I've thought about that I really like is them taking a quarterback in the second round, get whoever it is that falls, whether it's JJ McCarthy, whether it's a Bo Nix. I know there's a lot of Bo Nix first round pick hype. I just don't know. I just can't.
yeah, I've spoken on. I don't like Bo Nix a ton in
Yeah,
general.
I know we've talked about it before, but yeah, I just don't.
Definitely not as a first.
Yeah,
Just on age alone, I don't think I can make him a first rounder. Like it
yeah.
just.
It'll be interesting. He's not as old as you think. I think Bo Nix is younger than you probably think he is. He's
I
not
want
Stinson
to.
Bennett old. He's just started for a long time, so he feels old.
He's the most. He's the most starts in college football history. Actually,
Yeah.
56 or 7.
He's 23 right now. So he'll be
That's
24.
actually not that old actually at all. Damn.
Because I kind of had that fallacy, but I think he started as a true freshman in
Yeah, I
Auburn.
mean, yeah, he's played almost 60. By the end of the year, he'll have played 60 career games.
So for a 23 year
Started.
old, I don't know. It's not crazy, but yeah,
That's not terrible. Yeah,
don't count the age against him. But
I was
I don't
definitely
know.
putting him at Andy Dalton levels of age.
I just think there's gonna be a guy. This is one of those quarterback classes where there's not maybe as many game breakers, but a lot of guys who I think are gonna be mid tier starters. You know what I mean?
And I think you could. I think this would be a pretty easy year to find the diamond in the rough because there's so much attention that's going to be around those top 4 or 5 guys, especially if Shador comes out. Like that is immediately 4, if not 5 QBs that are like first rounders, and then that gets
Yeah,
you can
he's
find the
not.
diamond in the second. You know,
Dion announced earlier this week
he's
that
not.
he's coming out in 2025. Now
Which I,
that could change. That's Dion saying that for Shador, but it's not very likely. I don't think.
yeah,
I think a lot of people are now counting him out.
which is fair. I think that's. I mean, he has a
You have
chance.
either way. You have 3 first rounders for sure. Like Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix are
Yeah,
first round
surefire,
talents. Yeah,
surefire,
surefire first
top
round.
10, surefire top 10 guys.
Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on to the next one. I like this because it just is keeping us completely off topic and we're talking about random stuff, which works really well.
It's what we do best.
Okay, would you keep Antonio Pierce if he goes 500 the rest of the year?
I'm gonna cut the back half of that off, and obviously it depends, truthfully, on the product. I'm gonna change the back end of your question. Like,
That's not how this game works.
if he goes 500, yes, I would keep him. I think
Okay,
there's a situation where I'd keep him if he doesn't go 500. Honestly, like
interesting.
I really like what I've seen from him just as a player motivation standpoint, and it seems like, I mean, the players immediately took to him, right? And I think obviously it's because he's
Yeah.
been in the building, right? He's not a completely new face, but like it took 6 days of Antonio Pierce being the interim head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders for the guys to be like, yeah, we can beat anybody. Doesn't matter who it is on Sunday. We can beat anybody we want to. And then guess what? Week 1, they did it, right? They went out and won a game. So I really like what I've seen from Antonio Pierce so far. And as long as the product is not awful, right? Even if he goes, so how many games do we have left now for them? Is it 8? They have 8 left, or
They're 4-5, so they have 8 left. Yes,
they have 8 left. Yeah. I mean, even if he goes a 3-5, or I could see 2-6. If it's a competitive 2-6, I still might keep him because I truthfully think that they made a mistake by hiring McDaniels and letting go of the last guy that did the interim job because it seemed like he was real well liked when he replaced Gruden, and then they booted him for McDaniels, and I think they're paying for it
Rich
tenfold.
Bisaccia is the guy who you're thinking of, by the way.
Yeah, they're paying for that tenfold now, right? Especially with McDaniels flaming out on top of it, right? So Also, insane how much dead money they have tied up in those two horrible head coaches. But
Yeah.
nuts. I think it was like 80, 85 million, maybe. I could be wrong there, but it's a
Yeah,
lot of money.
It's an insane amount of money. How
A
much
lot
they're
of money
paying.
tied up in two guys that got fired. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would keep Antonio Pierce. I really liked what I've seen from him so far in
I mean,
Vegas.
we're 1 week in. I think it's interesting. It's something to keep your eye on
It's
and kind
very
of see.
early, but like,
But yeah, he deserves a shot, I think.
yeah, there's no, but like, I just can't remember an interim situation that, like, I don't think it like turned on a dime, right? They're not going to make the playoffs or anything, but like, mentally, I think it turned on a dime, right? I think 2 weeks ago, I don't think there's a Raiders player in that locker room that felt confident going, like, waking up on a Sunday morning.
I got an interim coach who made the playoffs. Oh God, the Browns. They fired like the worst head coach ever. He lost it. He lost in Oakland and he lost in Cleveland. He drafted Baker Mayfield. What was his name?
Freddie
Um,
Kitchens?
no. Before
No.
Freddie Kitchens, that year before Freddie Kitchens, it was oh God, he was on the Hard Knocks season. I can see his face.
Lewis Hughes? I always get him and
Oh my God, you're so close. It's not Hughes Lose.
I always get him
Oh God,
and
so
Cincinnati's
close.
longtime coach mixed up.
Ugh.
Trying to look it up.
Hugh Jackson. That's what it
Hugh
is.
Jackson. That's what it was.
Yes, Hugh Jackson. Because Greg Williams took over, and then they went 5-3 the rest of the year, and I think they made the playoffs that year with Baker.
Yeah. Oh, would that have been the year that they made it? I didn't know that that was that same year.
Yeah, it was because Freddie Kitchens. Because remember Baker every other year, so they came in. I think he made it, and then Freddie Kitchens. They were terrible. They went 6-10. They fired him, and then Kevin Stefanski came in, and then they made it again. And then the following year they got rid of Baker.
Yeah, Freddie
Baker,
F.
because he made it
Kitchens.
twice, I think, in Cleveland, right? Or did he only make it once?
I thought he only made it the second time around,
Okay.
but I could be wrong. I know that they didn't win a playoff game until the second time around for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Hugh Jackson, his record in Cleveland over 2 years was 3-36-1.
You want to know what's even more funny? I'm pretty sure all three of those games that he won came on primetime.
That's nuts.
I'm pretty sure I remember, like, there was a meme that floated around for a while. They're like, Hugh Jackson in the last 20
Marvin
weeks.
Williams is the guy that you're mixing. Marvin
Yeah,
Lewis.
I always get those two mixed up. And it's just division foes, both bald African American guys. Like, I'm watching them twice a year. I always get them.
I always
Just
get
the
Marvin
names.
Lewis and Jeff Fisher mixed up because they're just the master of going 9-8. Yeah, they were the master of that.
I get Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy mixed up if it didn't look like Mike McCarthy ate Jason Garrett for lunch.
Yeah. I get guys mixed up on stats because I'm like, God, who's the guys that always just win 9-10 games and keep their job for 15 years? And you're like, Marvin Lewis or Jeff Fisher? Which one? You're like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Same dude.
Same guy.
Same
product.
guy.
Same product for sure.
I don't know. I always thought the Marvin Lewis hate was, I don't know. He was always disappointing to me because, like, you look back at those Cincinnati teams, you're like, oh, Carson Palmer was kind of a dude. Like, he was a good quarterback. And then you add, like, Chad Johnson was probably, like, I don't know, a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL, pretty explosive.
One of the most talented guys in the league, yeah.
And then they had TJ Husmanzada next to him, who was like, that might have been like one of the best wide receiver duos of the early 2000s.
Cedric Benson flipped into that backfield every once in a while.
Yeah, Cedric Benson was good. They had a bunch of dudes on that team all the time. You're like, man, that team and it was never good. Like that
they went 12-4 once, one time.
But they never made the play. They didn't win a single playoff game, right? I think he got fired because like that team should have been in this at least one Super Bowl because there was maybe they weren't always the best wide receiver duo, but there was years they were probably the best.
They were up there,
duo. Yeah. It'd be like Bill Belichick having Randy Moss, Wes Welker, Tom Brady, and being like, we didn't win a playoff game with them.
12-4, out the divisional round.
What are we gonna do? And it's like, yeah, you have no excuse. Like, what are you doing? Okay. Last topic on this, so we can wrap this up here. Do you keep Josh Dobbs or do you keep Kirk Cousins? What's your choice if you're Minnesota?
This is really tough.
I think Josh Dobbs is either going to become a really high paid backup, like the highest paid backup, or a team is going to like take a flyer on him after what they've seen this year.
Yeah. Personally, I'd keep Dobbs instead of bringing Kirk back. Kirk's getting older, 34 years old. He's going to be coming off an Achilles injury, which is notably one of the hardest, if not the hardest injury to come back from at that age. And he had a phenomenal year this year. I do not want to take away anything that Kirk Cousins did in the first 6 to 7 games. He was insane. He was insanely good. But there were many points last year where we're like, they might need to get rid of this guy, right? Like they're kind of wasting the rest of the talent and selling this offense. So I don't know. He's been called into question as of late. Again, getting older. I love that I'm like, he's getting older, coming off the worst injury, like Aaron Rodgers isn't about to do it in the same season. But I would, and that's also me being a Dobbs believer. I've been a Dobbs believer since he got drafted by Pittsburgh. And again, if you want a super underrated college highlight tape, go watch his tape at Tennessee. Dude's a freak of nature. You guys think you're seeing stuff on Sunday. He was nuts on Saturdays. But I like Dobbs a lot. Younger. May still have some of the pitfalls arm-wise, right? Not accuracy-wise, where Kirk lacks in power sometimes and just real good in accuracy. I think Dobbs is the inverse. I think he's got a cannon, but it can go awry sometimes. And also, the legs are just having a quarterback that can move like that is such a game changer for your offense because it can completely open up your run game. I'm really curious to see if Alexander Mattison can turn it on in the second half. If they add a couple read option plays here and there, it can really start to draw.
You mean Cam Akers? I think you said his name wrong. Cam Akers is who you're thinking of.
Didn't Cam Akers also tear his Achilles?
Oh, is he out too?
I thought he also tore his Achilles last weekend. But
I didn't realize that.
I'm pretty sure he did if I remember right. But yeah, Madison has been disappointing so far, and it could do a world of help for your running back if half of his carries come in a read option where they're trying to take the quarterback out of the play, So
it'll be interesting. Minnesota would make if the season ended today, Minnesota's in the playoffs. And that's crazy.
They were 1-4 to start the year.
Yeah, and they've like Kirk Cousins turn it around, and then Josh Dobbs. I'm just curious. I think it's a little early to read on that one, but I think it's an interesting discussion.
It is very interesting. I think it makes it super interesting because Kirk's contract is up, and Dobbs is going to be up at the end of the year too.
Dobbs has an opportunity to take over the starting job. Genuinely, if he plays well enough, they can go, hey, we can get Dobbs for half the money.
If not even less than half.
Yeah, we could sign him to a 3-year, $45 million deal and just ride this out and see how this goes rather than paying. Kirk's going to get 30 to 40 million again. If he hits the open market, somebody's going to pay him that. That's just the reality of what it is. And if there was a quarterback who could survive an Achilles tail, it's good old pocket Kirk Cousins. He is slightly mobile, but it's not like a viable part of his game. So
true. Very true.
All right. That's going to do it for part 1. Oh, you got anything you wanted to add there?
No. Part 1 of episode 13 of the books.
Part 1 done. We will see you guys. Go listen to part 2. And it'll be out same exact time. So if you enjoyed this part and you want to hear us do, we're going to kind of do our mid-season of, what would we change and maybe give you our redo Super Bowl picks. And then, and give us your bets of the week. So if you want to
see how horrible we did last week on bets.
Yeah. But with that being said, we will see you guys in the next one.